Hey y'all, welcome to my YouTube channel, Made by Melly Jewelry, and welcome to my studio, or some might say my living room. That's okay. I prefer to call it my studio. Anyway, I'm Melly, polymer clay artist, jewelry designer, and owner of Made by Melly. I want to discuss with you why I no longer use UV resin on my jewelry, and why if you are a polymer clay artist, you might want to reconsider using it too. Before we get into the resin discussion, let me tell you about the jewelry that I'm wearing. This is a piece from my faux ceramic Easter cross collection. I did film this, and that video will be up either right before or right after this one, I'm not sure. And these earrings are from my latest collection called Blooming Bouquet. Unfortunately though, I did not film this. This was one of those kind of spur of the moment things where I just had an idea and was ready to create, so I just sat down and went for it and didn't stop to film it. But the Easter crosses, like I said, I do have a video on those, so you can go check that out after you watch this one, okay? So I'm making this video because I wish someone had made this video when I first started. Resin will yellow. Any resin is going to yellow eventually. And I knew this, I just did not realize that UV resin will yellow so quickly. And I'm not talking a few months, a few years, I'm talking it can yellow really badly just in a few days. I had so many pieces that were ruined at an art show, an outdoor event, where I had a table sitting out in the front of my tent and the sun was shining on my jewelry all day. I didn't think anything about it. And then at the end of the day, a lot of my jewelry was ruined, and a lot of it, the pieces that weren't as bad, I just put them on clearance and sold them at a discount, and some pieces I literally just had to throw away. So I did a lot of research and I switched to a two-part epoxy resin, and the one that I personally chose to switch to is art resin. From the research that I did, what I could find is that art resin has the best UV inhibitors on the market. So that was something that I was looking for specifically, that it would, wouldn't yellow. So I went with art resin, and that's what I use now. But there are exceptions to every rule. And one of those being that when you're working on a curved surface, well, you can't use a two-part epoxy on something that's not flat. It's going to run off before it can set. So in those cases, I do need to use a UV resin. The other case being when I'm working on something that needs to go back in the oven, say, for example, I made a cabochon and I want it to be shiny and coated with resin, but then I want to make something else around that and I need that to be able to go back in the oven. In that case, I would have to use a UV resin on it. What I've been using is a product called Deep Shine from Teresa Salgado at Tiny Pandora, and it is supposed to be guaranteed not to yellow. Now, I haven't put that to the test, but I'm going to make some test pieces and with some different options, set them out in the sun and see how they hold up. But I will say I used it on this bracelet here, and this has held up beautifully. You can see how white the white still is there. And this has been to several art shows. Now, I've not had it out in the direct sun, but it has been to several shows, and it still looks just as good as it did when I first made it. So that has held up really well. The other thing is that when I first started, I didn't have UV resin. And so you can use gel polish, like the top coat from gel polish, which I had plenty of because I used to be a nail artist. So, and I do my own nails and all that stuff. So I had plenty, and I thought, well, I'll try that. So this is a very old piece, probably some of my first cane that I ever made, and some beads that I made with it. This thing is so old. It's been to so many art shows, but it's still, the white is still white. It still hasn't yellowed. So I'm thinking that gel polish might be a good choice too. The other thing that I still use the regular old UV resin for, mainly because I still have a big bottle of it and I'm going to use it up somehow, is when I'm attaching my earring post. I'll show you like this. I just stick my post on either with some glue or Bacon Bond liquid clay, something like that, and then I go over it with UV resin. Now I do also go over it with clay sometimes, but I don't always want to use clay. Sometimes I just want to use the resin, and in that case, I'm trying to see if you can see it. That is how I attach those, because they're not gonna get a lot of light anyway, and they can't, it's not like that's gonna be seen, so I don't have a problem using it there. Now I will say the other exception is that if you're just making jewelry for yourself and you're not selling it and it's just your personal jewelry, UV resin is fine. As you'll see in the examples I'm going to show you, I still have several pieces that I made years ago that were coated with UV resin that have been in my personal collection, and they're absolutely fine. It's just I don't feel comfortable selling my pieces that are coated in UV resin, and I certainly don't want to go to outdoor events and have my pieces ruined. So that's why I switched, and why, like I said, if you are selling your pieces, or especially if you're doing outdoor market, if you haven't had this happen to you already, it probably will at some point. So you might want to consider changing it up and using a different type of resin. Let's take a look at I'll show you what I'm talking about. We'll take a look at the examples and see what you think. Okay, here we go. I'm going to show you some examples. I'm outdoors, so I'm hoping that the lighting will be better and you'll be able to see these better. Let's start with my faux turquoise here. This is what it originally looked like. Nice and pretty and blue. So that shows you the difference there in the color. You can see here the edges where you can, the original color still shows around the edges. I'm assuming that's because the resin is thinner there around the edges. But that's the comparison. Now, if you didn't know that, you know, would you know it? I don't know. It drives me crazy. Drives me absolutely crazy. It's another pair of that same pattern. It just ruined so many of my pieces. Now this pair, you know, that doesn't look too bad, just looking at that. But wait until you see what it looked like before. That is what it originally looked like. I mean, the color has just changed completely. This is a pair from my personal collection. Nice and pretty and white. And there's the ones that yellowed. And I have another pair of those. These are from my personal collection. That's what the original looked like. And then the beads on this bracelet, which these are not too bad. They're, you know, around the edge you can see the original color. So there's those compared to the original. Now in that same color family, which this is the original colors, I have this necklace. These are all from the same collection, and that's the original on the back side of this. That was like a little pool of resin there. Okay, this is probably the worst piece I have that's from this same collection. Look at this one. This is like really bad, really bad. I mean, I could sand that down, sand the resin off and redo it, but it's a lot of work. But yeah, that's
And there again, these are the original colors. I mean, that one's terrible. Absolutely terrible. This is the original, because these are a matte finish and I didn't put resin on those. So that's the original versus the resin. This is from my personal collection and it has yellowed some. That's the original color, but it's not too bad compared to this. The beads, these pieces, everything. And then I also have a bracelet with the beads. And it's heartbreaking. You know, you put all of this work into them just to have them ruined like that. And it's so frustrating and heartbreaking. And there's the original. This is the back side. And there's the front side. And then here's another pair from that same, and this one I think is worse than these, but it's the same color, same pattern. This is what the original looked like. Now this side of it yellowed a little bit, but that's the original. Now these pieces were only at, I want to say 3 shows, and they were not, well, at one of them they may have been in direct sun, but it was very overcast that day. But the rest of them were in the shade at only 3 shows. And the wind is blowing my stuff away. And this is what they look like. Okay, next up I have these beige ones. And on a neutral warm color like this, the yellowing won't look as bad. This is the back side. This is the originals. And then there's the front side. Another pair made from that same, and look at this. Now these have glitter on the back side, so you can't really see the color, but it's the same as those. I have these here that don't have any resin on them, but I wanted to show you these because I'm pretty sure this is from the same colors that was used in these. And it's so, like, the yellowing is so splotchy. And like I said, that's the original color. This is what the original looked like. It's a pair of my earrings. And this big, beautiful necklace that I spent so much time on is absolutely ruined. I mean, the difference is night and day. And because this has yellowed, it no longer matches these beads. I tried to wear it one day and it drove me so crazy, I just had to take it off because I just could not stand to look at it. So that is the dangers, the consequences of using UV resin. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Okay, thanks. Bye.